Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all our viewers around the world. This is South Sudan Women's Intellectual Forum, hosting two special guests today. We thank you for taking the time to tune in to our panel discussion, which would be on employment in South Sudan, the rules and regulations that govern employment in the government, as well as non-governmental organizations, as well as the UN agencies. Before I move further with our topic of discussion, I would like to give just a brief moment of introduction to our guest today. Today, we are hosting the Minister of Labor, Honorable General James Oth Mai, and we are also hosting Honorable Bangasi Joseph Bakasoro, the Minister of Public Service and Human Resource Development. Honorable Ministers, you are most welcome to our show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you. As I mentioned, our topic of discussion today is on employment in South Sudan. We know that we do have laws that govern employment. We have the Labor Act, as well as the Public Service or Civil Service Act, which are supposed to be the guiding principles, the guiding laws by which people are governed in both sectors, the private as well as the public sector. Unfortunately, as I speak, we have had quite a number of incidents recently, and this is the reason South Sudan Women Intellectuals Forum decided to host this show today, so that at least we hear from our viewers as well as our leaders what is happening, what is being done with regards to these concerns that have come up. In recent days, we have heard of attacks, and these attacks have happened in different states. Not to mention all of them, but as recently as April 24th, youth in Ajungthok in eastern part of Ruweng administrative area are alleged to have assaulted an IRC compound. They were claiming discrimination against the locals in the hiring process. Again, in April, a UN employee, a nurse called Clara, was attacked in eastern Equatoria State. This is almost 2 weeks ago. Sadly, yesterday we received news about the death of Dr. Lewis Edward, who was posted in Unity State, a staff of IRC, who was killed. The circumstances of his death are not yet clear, but all information appear to point towards the current hostility towards humanitarian workers working in different parts of South Sudan. There have been numerous cases of youth, as well as even government, state government officials requesting that certain positions be reserved for their local communities, that other South Sudanese should not be given those positions, but these should be reserved for members of their communities. So to start my question, I would like to ask Honorable General James Oth Mai, what does the labor law say about employment in South Sudan? Also, can you kindly state the key elements in the labor law? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Anit. And, it is very unfortunate for us in South Sudan to lose such kind of people who are giving support to our people. And it is very unfortunate. And we regret on that. And we apologize and give condolences to the great family of those who have lost their lives, giving service to our people. The labor law is very clear. As we all know, we have Labor Act 2017, which we are working now to make regulation policies and regulation and procedures, so that we want to translate the labor law into movable. We want to move. We need to really to translate the whole act into policies and regulations. We are working on it now, and in the labor law, we are supposed to establish what we call employment exchange. It's an office where that office is responsible for all the recruitment in the private sector. It is actually under the supervision of the Labor Commissioner, which is the Undersecretary. We have not yet established that office. We are working on it because we want to make a regulation first, and then now we will establish all those offices. And the labor is very clear, the act is very clear, giving directive, giving direction to all type of recruitment. So when we are done with the regulations, which now we are working on it, we have hired a consultant, and then now we will implement whatever the labor law says. We have so many things. One of it, the employment itself, and the Labor Act said in Article 46 that all the foreign employers or even national employers, they must give priority to the national, 80% of the employment. And also in the middle and senior management positions. That is very clear. For now, we are working to make sure that that one is implemented and see the process. We are still getting some difficulties because the regulations are not out. But it is very clear that employment must be transparent and getting toward 80% of our nationals. The bigger question now when you talk of nationals, the 80%, and this is the case now with our people. 80% it is misunderstood by our people. When organization is working, for example, in my county, Wulang County, our people may think that 80% should come from Wulang, which is not true. 80% is national of South Sudan. They can come anywhere, any technical job. If you cannot get it in that location, you can bring it from anywhere, provided that is a South Sudanese. These things has not gone down well to our people, and that's why they are fighting. I know you will ask later. We have positions that are supposed to be for local people. You have vendings, those who are making advertisement, you don't need to bring it from outside. You have hawkers, you have drivers, you have cleaners, you have security guards. These are positions that are supposed to be recruited from local. These are not technical. But any technical work, any technical job, you have to be sent from any part of South Sudan. Back to you, Annie.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Just to follow on this same question that it has to be from the local area. We have had instances where even a person, for example, we have the situation of floods in Jonglei. A person might have decided to move to Lake State today, and they don't have other skills other than to do these unclassified jobs. So being a national of Jonglei State, does this mean that he or she cannot take up a job in Lake State because these jobs are reserved for people from the state? Over to you.
They can take the job if that person, she or he is staying in Rumbek, even if it's from Rang or from anywhere, Jonglei is very near, they can take a job there because actually staying in that place and it's part of national.
True, but the youth have been writing a lot of warning letters. I would call them warning letters because they've been threatening to take action against institutions who recruit people from outside. I can give an example. There was a hospital that was being run in Paloj, and this hospital was managed by some of the oil companies. It was contracted to a South Sudanese who was doing an excellent job by employing qualified doctors and nurses from all different parts of the country. But because of the pressure from the local community, today the hospital is not able to provide the services. And even the donor, or rather the company that was funding the whole project, has had to withdraw from there. So in such a situation, what can be done by the government as the enforcing body? And the reason I'm saying this is because we have even had ministers. Recently, there was a ministerial order from the Minister of Labor in Lake State about this same issue of position. What is the response from the Central Ministry of Labor to the actions of not just the ministries, but also the local youth and communities who have decided to take and interpret their law in their own way? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, the whole thing is trickled down into indiscipline in our youth. Because as I said, we have technical position where you cannot get them local. If we need nurses is a technical work. If we can get that one in Rambe, and then we will recruit from Rambe. But if you don't get nurses, enough nurses that will run the hospital there giving services to our people. We have to bring it from towing from anywhere. But you know, as a government, the law is very clear, but the law needs to be reinforced. You see, by tightening also the security, the youth, you know, they are all armed. They take actually the law into their own hands. You get in some places where the youth in the villages are even armed better than the armed themselves. So it is indiscipline, really, that need to be really enforced to other people. You know the question of Rang and Malut. In Rang, people protested. What we have in Rang, we have about 523 employees in Rang. Out of these 500 was only 23 foreigners. The rest come from the same area, from the area. As I said, our youth, if you don't get a job, you think that everybody is not working in South Sudan. If you can have about 470 something working in the land, why do you complain? All right? And if at all there is malpractices, and then it is better we resolve it amicably, and we actually send a team to Rang and Malut. And we had a very serious dialogue with them that from the first place, you must know that all these services are going to our people, not to foreigners. And we have to be mindful of those who are helping us giving services to our people. Don't destroy anything because we are not working. It is better we resolve this issue amicably. We have a very serious case to answer as a government because we really need to enforce law into our society. They are all armed. That will take you to disarmament, will take you to so many things. So our people sometimes they rush in taking decisions without knowing the consequences. Now, yes, people are suffering in Malut because there is no technical people who can give services. All right? But individuals who are doing that, they don't mind, you know? So, but we are calling as a Minister of Labor, we are actually organizing a workshop, a big workshop, where we will call all the ministers of labor in 10 states, and then Director General of Labor, RRC there, and then we will call them to you. We will have 3 to 4 days, at least a workshop where we will actually explain the whole Labor Act 2017, and then we will discuss all these issues, so that at least we have to enlighten our people, so that they don't disadvantage our locals who are receiving services.
Thank you, Honorable, for your response. And just to shift our conversation to the public sector, I would like to pose a question to Honorable Bangasi Joseph Bakasoro. And this has to do with the recruitment process in the public sector. Can you enlighten us on how recruitment is done within the Ministry of Labor and Public Service? How are civil servants recruited? My reason for asking that is that a lot of people feel that jobs in the public sector are given to people without qualification, without advertisement, and based on who you know. In the early days, I remember people used to say when you go to any ministry, you will discover that the employees belong to two specific tribes: the tribe of the first minister who came to that office and the first under secretary who came to that office, because that was when people were being recruited. So people were recruiting their tribesmen, and nepotism was rampant. So please enlighten us. Today, how is the recruitment process done in the public sector? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, let me say thank you for welcoming us to this forum to give some input on the questions that we are going to raise. First of all, the issue of recruitment in public service, we have a law very clear. The second issue is that, you know, when you start with the wrong foundation, then it continues for some time. You know, from 2005, when we started recruiting the civil servants, that is where we had gone wrong by not applying the recruitment procedures and process in place. And people went on recruiting relatives and friends and unqualified personnel. I don't blame them for that, because we just came from the bush, from the war, and everybody was hungry to get something to be done. So they have to use shortcut by all means to get where they are now today. But then there was chance for those who are unqualified to enroll in schools so that they can upgrade their standard. The recruitment process in public service is very clear. One is that you have to identify the posts. First, the nominal roles, you check and see where there are empty slots. The second is to advertise publicly. Then when you receive applications, you shortlist by screening, and then carry on an open interview with all the participants or the candidates. And then those who are successful will be employed. Of course, we don't deny that there were no anomalies in the process. But as of these days, especially 2 years ago, when the former Minister of Public Service, James House, he tried his best to put rules and regulation and to apply the procedure of employment. You know, when you are acquainted to bad behavior, to bad approach, you will continue with it until, I mean, it changes gradually. So now the recruitment board is in place. We are getting also challenges in the recruitment board, because most of the ministries, the government institutions, you just find yourself that now files are brought to you that these people were already interviewed and you don't know how. But we are dealing with that one gradually, because as we are making some reforms in the public service, it has to take some little time. Gradually, the change is coming slowly but steadfast. So the issue of employing unqualified staffs had been there, and will continue also to be there for some time, as long as we don't have the political will to make a proper reform in public service. But as I'm talking, we are pushing and we are hammering very hard to make sure that we abide by the rules of recruitment in the country. And it is going well. but gradually and slowly. So that is what I can tell you so far. The rules and the regulations are there, but some institutions bypass the rules, and we are trying to bring them and educate them every time that please use the procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that elaborate clarification about the recruitment process within the ministry and the issue of people without qualifications. Almost 10 years ago, one of the ministers of public service, and that was Honorable Awud Denga Chwil, made an initiative for review of the documents of all civil servants. And unfortunately, her attempt to do that was obstructed, and that resulted in her resignation at that time. Is there any effort to verify the qualifications of civil servants going on currently? Because it's a known fact that there are a number of people who do not have the right certificates. There are people with fake certificates who are currently employed in senior level positions. How do we overcome this problem and address it? Over to you.
Thank you. We are making a lot of efforts to review all the files of the civil servants who are employed. We still have an open chance to every civil servant to upgrade to a certain level that is required by public service to fit in that job. You know, when we were fighting, most of the cadres who were fighting did not have qualifications by having certificates, good certificates. And as we got our independence, we need to recruit. Of course, we need also to give them the chance to upgrade their standard through education. As I'm talking now, we are reviewing all the files because in fact there are fake certificates in place. You know, during this computerized global world, computerized world, anybody can get certificate just in Juba from anywhere, and through the computer you can get the certificate. So there is authentication of certificates by the Ministry of Higher Education, General Education, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because most of these certificates, sometimes they come from foreign countries, and to authenticate them, sometimes it is difficult. So as of now, any recruitment must be based on this criteria to authenticate the documents, to make sure that we don't employ anybody again who is unqualified for the job. But of course, this has happened in the past, and we have to review. If there are people who have a chance to upgrade themselves, to upgrade their standard, that's welcome, because they didn't have chance during the time they were fighting. But those who totally refuse, I think there will be a recommendation to that effect and see how we can cope up. But of course, you know, we are dealing with a very critical situation that needs patience and strategic planning. Otherwise, you may open another avenue for conflict. So we must be very cautious when we are dealing with civil servants in our institutions. But the process is ongoing, and we shall get there in the reform agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Now to come back to the private sector and the NGO world. Honorable James Worth, how does the Ministry of Labor ensure fairness in the recruitments that are done within the NGO and the UN? We have had people complain that these institutions, just like the government is dominated by certain communities, they are also dominated by certain communities. Is there any assigned body within the Ministry of Labor that is set up to monitor the implementation of some of the ministry's policies Do you participate in the interview processes done by the UN or the NGOs? Over to you.
You are muted. Okay, okay.
It's still on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay now. Thank you very much for that question. You know, as I said before, we have so many offices that need to be established in the 11 Act. And I agree with my colleague Fokasero when he said we start actually in the wrong foot, and for us to correct actually something that has gone wrong, it takes time. What we are doing now when it comes to the recruitment, all the NGOs or any private sector, when they want to recruit, they come to us, they place a request where we well analyze and we give approval for the recruitment. And the unfortunate thing is that when they get the recruitment approval, they don't come to us again. They don't tell us the shortlisting, how the interview was done, and what. We are having some problem now, and we say this problem we are solving it by actually translating the act into rule and regulations, and which we are working on it now. And we are supposed to establish an office and license private companies to do the recruitment. What we are doing now also, we are putting a statistic center here with us in the ministry, where we will ask all the South Sudanese all over the world, those who have graduated or even if they are in senior school, they have to send us their names and their CVs. We keep it with us. When any NGO have a request to recruit, and then we will see from the list that we have the relevant qualification that they need, and then we will advise them according to that. That one is not there now, and we are going to establish it. We are working on that center, and very soon, maybe in 1 month time, it will be ready, and we will ask all our Southerners worldwide to send their CV. Yes, we have a very serious problem with NGOs, which is really true, according to our assessment. Now you will get certain NGOs occupied by certain ethnic group. It is because the human resource, if it is a Nuer, it means that majority of those people will be Nuer. If it is Kuku, the same, because they sometimes we accuse them that they advertise here while already recruitment is done there. But we are licensing private company that will be responsible for recruitment and training, where we will recruit from there. And I think if we achieve that one, transfers will be there. We are working also, last time it was a request that all the human resource people in all organizations should be nationals, and that we are getting it difficult now. Transparency is not there. But we are weighing options, what to do. Do we really need a foreigner there where we will not have interest, or we give everything into private company that can do the recruitment. We are still working on the regulation now, and it is not yet ready, but we are experiencing those type of malpractices in the recruitment, which we are working to resolve them. As my colleague said, change always is problematic. People resist change. We are even now collecting what we call labor market assessment. We want to know those who are working in private sector in South Sudan, including informal sector. It's now over 4 months now. We are growing, we are moving in a snail space. We are not moving very fast because people are resisting. Some will tell you even that I don't want you to know my salary. Some of them will tell you, no, 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 why do you ask where I come from? And it is obligation for labor to have all those details. And as I am speaking now, if you are us or I'm us or anybody in South Sudan, what is the rate of unemployment in South Sudan? Nobody will tell you. You see, because we don't have data which we are now collecting now. But I'm certain that we are going to move there so that we have a control and we have to correct the past. Those things we have said, they are happening and they have happened. That's why our youth also sometimes they are very, very bitter because of that. But we in due course, we are going to overcome all those issues. When we finish with the regulation, we have to enforce it also. Back to you.
Thank you, Honorable. It's true, regulations are very important to ensuring that the laws are interpreted correctly and brought to the level where institutions can learn to understand as well as respect them. And I also commend you for the effort of reviving the diaspora desk, because I believe members of our diaspora are keen to contribute to development within South Sudan. But what hinders them from coming is mainly the absence of any desk to welcome them and also appreciate the skills and knowledge that they would bring to the country. So we commend you for reviving the diaspora desk. Honorable Bangasi, the tendency appears to be people are moving towards the NGO sector more than government. In the past, people were interested in working in government because the jobs were prestigious, the pay was good, the benefits were equally good. However, due to the fact that the salary has depreciated so much, and oftentimes people don't get paid for 6 to 7 to 8 months, a lot of people have decided to abandon the private sector, the public sector. And this is one of the reasons for the violence that we're seeing against people working in states with the NGOs where most of the money is. So what is the government doing to make the public sector more attractive for South Sudanese to come back and work in? Over to you.
Thank you. Yes, you are right. There are so many of our youth civil servants who are moving from government institutions to NGOs because of payment. In fact, the NGOs are paying better than the government. But some years back, the government was even paying better than the NGOs, because I was once in working in UNICEF in 2007-8. But when I came to government, the payment was better than that of the NGOs. But today is the opposite. It is just because of the economic problem the country is facing. Otherwise, the value of dollar has reduced to substantively less than what we are expecting. And as a result, the value, because of the value losing its, the pound losing its value, most of the civil servants are now leaving public service to go to look for green pasture. As I'm referring constantly to James Oss, who was the former Minister of Public Service, he did a lot of work in public service, including the head counts and also the new salary structure to meet the economic demands at this moment. Yes, we have improved the salary structure, but not implementable for one reason. if we are unable as a government to pay the old salary, then how can we be able to pay the new salary structure? That is the problem we are facing. But otherwise, a very nice good work had been done to raise the salary to a certain standard that we can meet the cost of market demands. But then the collection and the cash in hand cannot allow us to pay the new salary structure, but it is on the table. The only problem we are facing is the cash in hand. Otherwise, this is one of the efforts the government has done. While we are waiting to translate the new salary structure into actual program, first of all, we need to evaluate our cash flow, whether we are able to raise enough money to pay the new salary structure. Otherwise, it will still remain in the shelf on the table, waiting for the economic situation to improve. And to improve this, the economic situation doesn't need one person. It needs the whole government and the whole society to make sure that our economic standard is improved, and then we are able to pay our civil servants monthly and to a certain standard that they can meet the cost of living in the market. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to take a question from Abraham Madit Majuk, he asked why NGOs are allowed to pay their workers in USD instead of SSP.
That is a good question. It was resolved last year in the cabinet that all the nationals should receive their salary in SSP and not in dollars. But because our physical and regulatory monitoring our finances, our economy, it was very difficult, and some people use this one to enrich even themselves. Because you get some of the NGO there, when we were talking of our people receiving their salary in SSP, you know, if I'm receiving $200, somebody will run and exchange this one in the black market, and then he will come and give me the bank rate, and then run away with a good amount of my money. So that's why people actually were really flexible to say that, okay, they can receive their salaries in dollars. That was the reason. We are still really struggling for the central bank to control the exchange rate. If it is controlled, the rule and regulations are very clear that all of us, we are supposed to honor and respect our local currency. That is our legal tender. That's supposed to be used by anybody in South Sudan. But because of all these problems that is happening in our country, we are unable actually to control the market. Market now is fluctuating. We have parallel exchange rate all over South Sudan. We have the black market, and we have the central bank rate. So if everything has gone on well, and then we will revert back so that everybody receive their salaries in SSP. Back to you.
Thank you very much. This brings me back to the issue of job creation and youth employment. So what is your ministry doing in relation to job creation, especially targeting the youth who today have the degrees but not the jobs?
You know, in our labor, we are running about 7 vocational training centers where we give people the skills. and so that they can start their own businesses and employ people. So we have trained thousands of them. But also we are saying in the labor that we really need to move away from being consumers to producers. And we are working toward that so that we produce our own things. We have trained women in Torit on food processing. Now if you go to Torit, you can get yogurt and you can get cheese. Because it is in a small quantity. We have opened the same training in Rumbek. And now, with the help of Kingdom of Netherlands, we have African Development Bank. We have a project now being implemented by UNDP, training 1,000 youth here in our MTC here in Juba. And we are training also the same number in Yambio and in Torid, in Bor, Rumbek. We are giving them a skill. And UNDP also give them some a start kit. They give them kits so that they start their businesses. And as I said earlier, we are making the labor market assessment where we are looking to any organizations, positions, so we may advise them when we finish from this so that they take maybe our graduates. But the bigger issue, Madam Angel, is actually the security. We have people who are talented, who want to do entrepreneurship, they want to do their businesses, but they cannot go outside of the big towns. They cannot go outside, because of insecurity. We have really people who doesn't want a white-collar job. They want to run their own businesses, but sometimes they are handicapped by security situation in the country, which is really true. And for that, if we now have a security, investors will come in big way where our people will be working. But now we are looking only NGO sector, oil sector, and the government, which is not enough. We don't have companies that can accommodate thousands of workers, Yeah, but in due course, as I said, it is a process. We will work toward that. And I hope that these views will yield fruit so that we have a total peace in our country where investors will come and employ our people. But in our part, we are training thousands of people, and we are working actually we will make it public from 2016, those who have been trained and these vocational training centers. We will make them public. These are thousands of, and doing so their own work here in cities, but because of insecurity, they cannot roll out from capitals. That's it.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bangasi, are there any capacity building initiatives for entry-level employees? And what succession plans have you put in place? Because we know the workforce is mainly made up of people who are above retirement age. And in the absence of the proper implementation of the retirement law, people are still hanging on to their positions and not leaving them for the younger people to take over. So what succession plans do you have in place? And what capacity enhancement programs have you undertaken for people who are just entering the service?
Thank you. Yes, in terms of capacity building, first of all, we are aware that public service has to train civil servants all over the country. And as such, we have a plan to build institute of public service in Juba, The plan is already about 50% successful. We are waiting for the implementation to build an institute where we can train civil servants. And any ministry can also use the venue to train the manpower, the human resource in the country at their levels. So that is already in the pipeline. When the building finish, or when we start and finish, then we shall open it officially so that we begin the programs of training. Because we cannot depend always on sending civil servants to different countries. A country like South Sudan, like any other country, needs to have its own institute for civil servants training. Yes, on the other side of the coin, we have the issue of the pension. Of course, yes, you are right. There are some people there who are already above the age limit to work in public service or civil service. Of course, as I said from the beginning, and I will continue to repeat it, changes, if you don't have a very good foundation from the beginning, then the time you start, you will have some resistance, and things may not work according to the interests of the policy of the country. So, in fact, there are pensioners who are supposed to be pensioned since last year and beyond. But of course, because we don't like also to open another avenue of misunderstandings and gossip and so on, we need to cautiously move strategically to lay off those who are ready for pension. It needs our own political will to do that. It needs a commitment to move that forward, so that we open space for the new graduates to be recruited into civil service. But if you don't do that, then so many of our youth will be languishing outside there. But we are waiting for some time. We have raised it with the leadership that there are some people who are supposed to go on pension. And as soon as we clear that doubt, that cloud, we shall be able to begin now recruiting the freshers so that they can begin to do some work. Though the payment is very little, but government is a government of the day. There's no shortcut for that. We need civil service to work and to change this country. If you don't have the best civil servants in the country, then the country may not stand on its foot. So the training program is there. The program for implementing the pension scheme is also there, but we have some political lack of political will in place to implement it fully, but we are pushing on gradually. Maybe within this year, we may succeed to pension the civil servants who are already ready for that. And then we continue recruiting the freshers and training them on the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to take a few questions from the members of the audience, there is Simon Apui, who is asking, what is the retirement age in South Sudan? This is for you, Honorable Bagasi.
Yes, the retirement age is 65 years. When you reach 65, you have to go to do other assignments somewhere and leave the space for the incoming grades to fill in, because they have to go in succession. We start with, if you are a degree holder, you are recruited in grade 9. Then you continue progressing depending on your capability to progress very well. Then as you are going, of course, the years are passing. When you reach 65, that is a legal age for you to exit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question to the Honorable Minister of Labor. This is from Chris James Tumbura. Is there any program from your ministry to assess the salary gap between national staff and the expatriate staff? He mentions that some of them working in the NGO sector find that there is a huge salary gap in terms of the packages that they received as compared to what the international staff receive. So is there any initiative from the ministry to try and bridge the gap between national and international staff? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very good questions. I said it earlier that we are making a labor market assessment where all the employees who are working in South Sudan, whether foreigner or national, we are taking their particulars, including their salaries, and then after that we are going to make evaluations, and then we will advise them. We are working on that. Now there is nothing that we can do now because we don't have even data to support any decision that they are going to take or advice they are going to give. So yes, we are working on that, and it is very big concern to us in the ministry. The second one is that also we have hired a consultant. We are working on minimum wages. We don't have it here now. We have so many problems with our national and foreigners, or even employees and employers. So we are working to determine the minimum wages where you will not go down. It is a private sector. Yes, you can go up, but there will be a limit where you can go down, and our people are really suffering on that. They are receiving a very low salaries. So yes, we are working on that. As I said earlier, also, change is always problematic. They need time, and then they need regulations, and we are working on that. And I'm sure we will achieve it. Back to you.
Thank you. Among the audience, there are some questions linked to the issue of foreigners who are employed within our civil service. And this mainly comes in relation to some controversies that arose recently in the employment, or rather the appointment of some members of parliament who are believed to be non-South Sudanese. We also know for a fact that within our civil service, as well as within the NGO, there are people posing as South Sudanese who are in reality not from South Sudan. So what is the connection, or what is the coordination that is being done between your twin ministries and the other bodies in the country to ensure that South Sudanese jobs are protected?
Yes, I think your right is a good question. With us, as I said, I will still repeat it, that we are making labor market assessment, and we have a range of questions that we are asking somebody, including your origin, where you come from, and then also we are checking also with, we are coordinating with migration, where we will see even your visas, where we will see your all the document, whether national ID or passport or what. So we are working on that. We are working on that, and the reason for us making this labor assessment is because of those malpractices. We have so many people staying in our country illegally, and they are working. They are working. They don't seek work permit, and we cannot get them. So with this exercise, we hope that we are going to get them, and we will advise. It's wrong, of course. We have to protect our national and also strategy. It will come out from regulation. We have something called labor market opinion, If any position is advertised, so we will see first. We will not bring someone from outside. We have to go through the checklist of CVs we have. If we can get that qualification, and then we say that nobody will come from outside, we will advise that NGO to appoint somebody from South Sudan. If we don't have, of course, we have to give approval for somebody to come from outside. On that side, we are working on it. It is a process, and we will go there. I think the rest, my friend Fagasoro will answer why people are being appointed in public service without foreigners. Of course, in private sector, it is easy. Of course, this is businesses. Somebody can come from outside, but that you have to follow the legal procedure for their coming to South Sudan. Back to you.
Thank you very much. And I think a question from a member of our audience, Mr. Emmanuel, is we are paying, it's on the issue of taxation, whether we collect taxes from civil servants as well as private sector employees. And he asks, why are we seeing no good coming out of it? Usually taxes would help in the development of the country, but Emmanuel asks, why is there no development being seen from the tax collected from our citizens?
Let Fakasera will answer that. He's a politician. Public service.
Sorry, you're muted.
Someone has to open it.
Yeah, the question belongs to all of us, even including the moderator. We can also answer that. You know, yes, taxes are collected. And as I said, we are a consuming country, not a producing country. When a country is only consuming without producing, whatever tax may come also can be consumed. And because there is no other source of income that can pay the civil servants. As a result, now we are depending totally on taxation in order to pay our civil servants, since we don't have other sources to pay. So whatever comes as a revenue is what we are using. So while we are focusing on development, on the other hand, that will have capital expenditure that may come from tax. But then the question comes, the economic situation of the country is very dear, that we are unable to get a substantive amount of money to use it for salaries and use the same amount for development. So initially we are dealing with only chapter 1 because of the economic situation in the country. Back to my brother James.
Okay, let me complete.
Before we send it back to the Minister of Labor, I still have a follow-on question on the issue of employment of foreigners in the public service. And I think this is where the audience is really interested to hear your view on that. So could you please answer as to what is being done to weed out foreigners, and why do we still have foreigners in our payrolls up to this day, 10 years after independence?
In this case, my Minister James also may answer better, because he did a very good head count. And I don't think really we have so many foreigners in our payroll. Yes, they were there some years back. But as time goes, they phase out. They came on contract basis and on short-term employment probably. And then they phase out. For the time being, if you have a foreigner in one of the government institution, he or she may be there on consultative basis only, but really, I'm not aware as of now as I'm talking. Yes, of yesterday, some years back, there were many foreigners who came also through a request by the government to train, to upgrade the standard of our civil servants. But for now, I don't think really we have foreigners in government institutions. Back to James.
Okay. Yes, I think it's right. We don't have actually, according to our headcount, we don't have foreigners who are in civil service now. But politically, of course, we have. And then the row, you might have heard some days back that somebody with a foreigner was appointed in TNLA. And I think politics there, I think we may have, but in public service, we don't have. As for private sector, of course, you have, these are business people, foreigners can come. But let me come back to the taxes. You know, the NRA, National Revenue Authorities, are really progressing very well. They are collecting, really, their collection is progressing. And, but as I said, we have so many people who are not paying actually taxes. It's there because we don't have record. Even PIT or even work permit. We have so many people who done that because we don't have actually a record. And we are doing this because we want to answer all those questions. And when we finish from this assessment, including the informal sector, you know, 90% of jobs they are run by foreigners. 90% are run by foreigners. And I doubt whether somebody is collecting something from them. I don't know whether the mayors are doing that, but we are also working to know exactly all the foreigners in the informal sector, how many of them and how many of national. But slowly, with these processes going on, the NRA, National Revenue Authority, is actually increasing its collection, actually increasing, is going up really. But because, you know, we have some our problem here, as Fakasoro said, sometimes money is not enough. And when you collect, we have so many obligations of the government which the government need to meet. And when you compare it to salaries, sometimes it doesn't meet the need of obligation and the salary. That's why we are having problem. And so taxes, NRA also, they are working to digitalize the collection actually, and they are working also to give every citizen here, whether you are a foreigner or a national, a PIN where people will check whether you are paying their taxes or not. They are working on it also, digitalizing it together with the revenue generating institutions. Now we are going away from this old traditional of collecting things. Sometimes when you collect money, it doesn't reach the bank, all of it. Some of them get destroyed in the middle. But now we are digitalizing the collection. I think that's why the revenue collection is increasing. So, but when we finish from our labor market assessment, I think we are going to have a lot of money. They are right. And especially the private sector actually is responsible for development of all the countries are developed by private sector. Because you have very few people in civil service who are working for the government. But the majority are in private sector. Private sector, if we strengthen it, and then we will have a problem. We will have a good collection. Because, for example, now if we have recruited 1 million workers working in private sector, it is a lot of money. When you PIT when you collect their social insurance, when you collect their other obligations. It is a lot of money. But up to now, we don't have that data which we are collecting now, and it is really true. Our people, they are seeing, and now we will advise them when we finish from this, because even the drivers of the water tankers here in Juba here, they are run by foreigners. All right, and it is really it's a problem, because you are not going to take also a decision in one day. Otherwise, everything will collapse. All right, we need services to our people, and then now also the government is working to at least to provide water to everybody with the help of our developmental partners. So development now is really problem also because of war also. Now you cannot go out there. Every time people are being killed on the road, ambush on the road. Even the workers who are working the construction of the road, also they are also target to all these rebel or youths who are armed. So we have a long way to settle down, especially when it comes to security sector. Back to you.
Thank you very much. There were some questions on the issue of the prevalence of ghost workers, and on the side, Honorable Bakasoro has answered that it's part of the reform program. I know for a fact that the South Sudan electronic payroll system was set up years back, and it continues to operate as a mechanism through which ghosts or unauthorized names that enter the payroll are monitored every month before payments are made. But a question that I would like to pose for both of you, but anyone can volunteer to answer, is a member of audience asked that we receive $20 million monthly in oil revenue. Where does that money go? This is a question from a member of our audience. What is that money used for?
well, let me volunteer. I
Okay,
would say
thank you.
that we don't know where that money is going, because at least it will be relevant to Minister of Finance and someone who are responsible for this one. Fakasal, of course, is a man who is waiting for money to give to the workers, to all the officials. And I think we don't know where these 20 million, if they are there really.
Let me come in and say, I would like to appreciate the question. It is food for thought for us to investigate. Otherwise, we don't know this information. Of course, it doesn't mean that when we are in the government and inside Juba, inside the country, we know everything. Maybe somebody somewhere knows this fact and can give us details, so that also we dig out, because we are in together with Elder James Oz. We are in the Committee of Public Finance Management Oversight Committee. And these are some of the information we gather, so that we can ask ourselves, what do we do? How do we get this money? Where is it? So it is a nice question, but for me, I don't know whether 20 million is the one. I thought even it is more than, but if it is 20, then that's fine. We can look, we can check it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question from me to the Honorable Minister of Labor. How much is the monthly revenue generated from the work permits that are issued by your ministry? Approximately how much do they contribute on a monthly basis?
It is ranging from 300 to 500 or 600,000 a month. US
dollars? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now,
it is not uniform, depending on the collection of the months, but it's not less than 300. It doesn't come down to below 300,000.
okay. And another member of our audience says that there are many South Sudanese in the diaspora with varied skills, vast skills, who can help contribute in the development of the country. How can you attract them to come back job-wise with reasonable compensation? So since you have taken the question, Honorable Minister of Labor, I would request the Minister of Public Service to please respond to this question. And maybe we can also come back to you, should you...
You must go back to James also after I answered mine, because these are all dealing with employment.
Yes.
First of all, I answered that question yesterday somewhere about the diaspora, to be encouraged to come. I think it is our interest that we need them to come. Of course, they have their own challenges, and we have our own challenges in South Sudan. The first challenge which I'm hearing from the diaspora is the issue of security. Somebody asked me yesterday, now, the security all over the country, and therefore we are unable to come. I told him, but our insecurity is also at a different level than the insecurity in a country like USA and so on. Because if you can get somebody being shot in public in an open place, and then at the other end you find a dead body in the morning, which one is more serious? Shooting somebody alive in front of the public, which is happening in the US, or a non-gunman kill you and then we find a dead body in the morning. So we have to evaluate. Otherwise, if we continue waiting for, a proper security to take place in South Sudan so that we return, that will be a nightmare. I would like to encourage our diaspora. We have also few diaspora who came some years back. They are here with us. They are surviving. It is only when you become a criminal, then also you can get affected. But otherwise, we have interest to make sure that the diaspora, because they've learned a lot, they have a lot of experiences. If they come and join hand with us, they can do a lot to the country. But because of this insecurity and fear from unknown, I think that's what is happening. And they are right. Somebody has to fear for his life and her life. It is necessary. But then we have to persevere with that and then come home. Otherwise, the door is open for diaspora. The only challenge again, which we shall face with the diaspora is, which may not be very necessary to air it out here, but for the sake of for the public to understand, the economic situation. Some of the civil servants are receiving $5 to $7 a month, and they don't get this money every month. And you in diaspora, you are acquainted to receiving your salary and your payment every maybe 5 days or weekends. When you come here and spend 2 to 3 months without getting salary, then you are going to be a liability to us. Because for us, we have been living here, we know this culture, we know this type of living. There is a hardship, we are acquainted to that. So let the diaspora community make decisions, either to come and persevere with us so that we put our country in the right place, in order, or they wait for us to finish the job for them and they come. While by that time, maybe the economy will improve and they will be getting salary monthly. Let them make the choice, but they are welcome. Thank you. Back to James.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we are putting a very serious attention on diaspora with the level, and that's why I said earlier that we are establishing a statistic office where we will ask all our South Sudanese who are in diaspora to send us their CVs. We will store them here, and then we will advise, because now if any body want to recruit, and then we will see through the CV that we have, and then we can call somebody to come and work when we are very serious on that, because I know very well. I've been actually in Australia, and I know the workforce that develop itself there from South Sudanese is huge, and they can help us develop in our country. So with our regulation, that will help us. I think we will attract many of them, and especially in private sector, where I don't have a problem being faced by my friend Joseph Fakasero, because his employees, including myself, sometimes we go 6 months without salary. But in private sector, you receive your money every month, and then now, as I said earlier, also we are working on the minimum wages, where at least we will have a standard where somebody can receive a good salary, and then go away with this disparity between our people, whether national alone or national with foreigners. And we are serious. We are working. We are also opening our website. When it is ready, we will also announce it. We will launch it officially, and then everybody in diaspora who want actually information about any job or labor or anything, they will just go to our website and they will get all the information. Otherwise, we will have their own CVs. Anybody who has a graduate or any qualification, we need their CVs, and we will inform them all about through our website, and we will make it available to everybody. Thank you.
Just for record purpose, while we are talking about diaspora, let them also be mindful of our academic qualification. It happened to me one time when one of my friends in diaspora came to me and asked for a job. Then I told him, please, you bring your credentials, bring your documents, and you will get employment. So the guy had no certificate of secondary school, no other certificate. And then because he came from outside, the assumption is that anybody who comes from outside just has a lot of experience and must be recruited immediately. No, we use public service regulations. You have to present your documents. So while we are welcoming them, they still have a chance to enroll in schools and get a certificate, and to add value to their experience. Then they will they are welcome. So just for a record purpose. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. The issue of health insurance has been magnified recently with the COVID outbreak that has affected the whole world, and South Sudan is not an exception to it. It's a known fact that we do not have a health insurance fund in place for government employees, nor is there an equivalent currently being worked on through for even pension, social insurance fund for the private sector. Most of the modalities used is that when a civil servant is sick, they would go to the health commission in Juba Teaching Hospital or the Ministry of Health, and then they would send them on referrals for treatment. Last year, we were shocked by our own parliament when members of parliament were awarding themselves money for treatment, though we have not heard what illnesses it was and why it was distributed equally to all members of parliament. So how do we handle this issue? Because COVID is here to stay, and the way it affects people differs from one person to the other. How do we make sure that we have a robust health insurance fund for our civil servants and that they are protected from any eventualities linked to their health in their line of duty serving the country. Thank you.
Yes,
James.
understood. Okay, now I think you are right. It's a good question. We raised this one when I was still Minister of Public Service, and we present it to cabinet, and it was discussed thoroughly. And then we have 3 institutions who were tasked to work on the medical insurance. That is Minister of Public Service, Minister of Health, and Minister of Finance. These 3 ministries were tasked to work on this medical insurance for the whole employees, even for the people of South Sudan. And I think and the secretary of these 3 ministries are working on it, and I don't know how far they have gone, but they are working on it. It was raised really officially so that we help our people. Because some of the issues we got when we were making a head count, thing that consumed our money, one of them was medical referrals. You say $1 million of dollars were taken actually for the medical treatment outside, and which was also problematic. But I think these 3 ministries are working on it, and hopefully when it finishes, I think everybody will have a health insurance, including our population, not employees alone. And then now when you are coming to, when you come to social insurance, in the private sector, we call it pension there in public. Now we have not yet collected money being kept by employers because we have not, we don't have act, we don't have law or regulation governing this money. And we cannot collect money without law. We need protection for the money, and we need protection for ourselves. We don't want to be accused tomorrow that we have taken law. But now we are waiting for the constituted parliament. It is already approved by cabinet, and then we will send it to parliament. If it is approved, it is a money that can develop the country. Maybe it will be over $500 million. This money in US dollars. So we will collect, we will invest it on behalf of the people who have money, and then they get benefits. We are working on it now. If it is passed, and then we are going to invest this money. It will help the country. It will help even individuals who have this money, really. And we are working on it already. We are already waiting for the constituted parliament to work. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As we are running out of time, I would like to give you an opportunity to tell us what are some of the challenges faced by the 2 ministries. So I would start with Honorable Pangasi Joseph Bakasoro for him to tell us what are the challenges faced by the Ministry of Public Service and Human Resource Development.
Thank you. Now, we have a number of challenges facing the ministry. Of course, one of the biggest challenges is the issue of the economy of the country, because without the fund, you cannot implement your programs. So we are depending so much on Chapter 1, which is only salaries. And sometimes we go to Chapter 2, services. But otherwise, the rest of, the other Chapter 3 is not existing. As a result, we are unable to really function very well in terms of development. So that is one of the challenges, the economic situation. The second challenge is our political will to make reform in the country. Yes, most of South Sudanese need reform. And some of us really, we are battling seriously to make sure that things changes. We cannot go as usual. But then we also get some challenges there because, as I said from the beginning, there are people, of course, benefiting from using shortcut in any approach, in development, in administration. There are some individuals who are acquainted to shortcut. For example, the issue of employment. People are not using the procedure to employ. So that's one of the challenges also we are facing. The political will is one of the challenge. The third challenge we are facing with the public, while we are focusing on the government institutions and private sector, let us also focus on the behavior in the public. No, when we don't change our attitude from depending on handouts and to try to produce, then we shall remain a liability to our own country. There is a need to change the attitude of laziness, to change the attitude of begging, to change the attitude of, wasting time, to the attitude of workaholic. We have to work hard. So that attitude of laziness is one of the challenge South Sudan is facing. That's why we today in Juba see that the private sector is occupied by foreigners. Jobs that we can do, we don't like to do it. We leave it to the foreigners to clean a hotel, to carry water, to clean the yard, to cultivate okra and whatever you have around your house during rainy season. We are unable to do that. Not all, but some do not like to change this attitude. So these are some also of the challenges that we need to change. While we need the government to make reform and change things so that we are in a better situation, we need also our human resource, the manpower we have or the human power we have, to also change their attitude, to begin thinking that this is our country. We are not temporarily here. We are permanent here. This is our country. We are not transiting. So life in South Sudan is looking like some people are on transit. They are not permanent in the country. As a result, when you are on transit, you cannot do anything stable. You need to only to wait for food. You eat, which is given to you, then you go ahead. We are not going. We are remaining here. So let the public also change the attitude. Otherwise, these are some of the challenges. Many are there, but let me just stop here to give chance to my colleague. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in labor, one of our challenges, the first one which is very serious, is insecurity in the country, where we are not attracting the investors to come, because when we have investors, then we have more employment in our youth or the whole population of South Sudan. This is a very big challenge, so insecurity in the country. And then the second one, of course, as alluded to by Pakistan, is the fact that funds are not available, things that we can do today, and then it will take time for you to implement because of lack of fund, and we know the condition of the country. It is one of our problem. And the third one is the resistance of the change, resistance of change itself. We want to make reform in private sector. People are resisting. You see, making it difficult for us to speed up the reform that we want to do. We have to dialogue with them, because in labor we believe in dialogue, social dialogue. And so we have to dialogue with them. We don't give them orders at all. We have to dialogue with them, and we have to go very slowly. They refuse today, we dialogue, and then tomorrow they accept. This is one of the very serious challenges in our country, that people are resisting change, including our nationals. And really is a big problem. And then the attitudes, as alluded to by Professor, attitude of our people. Now people are attacking relief workers, humanitarian workers, without seeing the consequences. Because now, because of war in our country, the development partners, the humanitarian agencies, they are the ones actually giving services to our people, being medical, being food itself, being education, being health, they are being provided by all these humanitarian organizations. So it is also some of the big challenges we are facing. What happened in Tori, we sent actually a team from here, and we discussed with them. We told them the fact that please don't take law into your own hands, because it's going to affect your own family tomorrow. And then they really apologize, and they say no. And Rang also is the same. They have to apologize, because at the end of the day, we need services to our people. It is not me as James Joseph, I don't work. It doesn't mean that is the end of the world. All right? If colleagues from South Sudan are working, I'm not working. This is okay. Then we don't want to tamper with actually services going to our people. And I think we really need to change our attitude with that, and let us try to dialogue. If you have grievances, please you raise them, and then we will listen to. And a solution where amicable solution will be found. And I think it is really a challenge to us in labor, because now they are actually sending our employees home, because if now any NGOs closes, finish, and then you will have 10, 20 people going home without work, and which is going also to be a liability for the country. So, but they are surmountable. We can resolve them. As time goes, we will resolve them. They are not permanent. They will still go. People will still resist. Money will still come, and then we roll out in a very big way. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Public Service and Human Resource Development. Thank you, Honorable Minister of Labor, for the very informative discussion that we have had today. The topic is something that is very close to our hearts as South Sudan women intellectuals. Humanitarian workers have been part and parcel of our communities from the early days of liberation and war up to today. And as we see them being targeted, we are concerned. We are concerned as SSWI. We are concerned as South Sudanese citizens who are the recipients of their valuable services. In this regard, for your concluding remarks, can you please tell us what your opinion is? Any words of wisdom and advice for you with regards to what's happening in our country would be greatly welcome. So I would start with Honorable Joseph Bakasoro.
Thank you. I had been interviewed twice on the same question, and I clearly condemn this behavior in our country against the humanitarian staffs. Nearly 90% of South Sudanese are depending on international aid. And as a result, There is no way we can avoid them. There is no way we can continue to harass and kill them. So I strongly condemn that kind of behavior. Even if the youth have rights, I think that is not the approach to address their rights. We have legal means in place. Let them collect evidence, present them to the authorities concerned, and their problem will be addressed amicably. And chasing away humanitarian agencies is not going to solve the problem. Instead, it is going to exacerbate the whole situation, because the government may decide also to come in and stop that kind of behavior. While we are addressing the problem, we need also to make our youth to be educative and to be matured in decision making. And that's why we are arguing with the youth that please don't be in a hurry. Go slowly and you will arrive where you want to arrive. If you go faster, then you are going to get it rough. So I'm appealing to our youth all over South Sudan. First of all, to understand the Labor Act, the labor law. What does it mean to say 80% to South Sudanese to get employment? Does it mean a South Sudanese is in her own village or not? So the interpretation of the law is wrongly done by our youth, and I'm advising, encouraging them to use legal means to reach the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. My advice, I have to repeat myself, is the fact that I want to advise our youth who is the future. Of course, sometimes they say they don't like tomorrow, they like today. But these are the backbone and future of this country. And there is nothing permanent. Problem comes and goes. All right? And I want them to unite. Don't segregate. Don't say this X and Y are not from my area. We are all South Sudanese. And by law, we have to work everywhere. Anywhere in the part of South Sudan, we are supposed to work there. But how do we forge our unity? We forge our unity because we are working also together. If I come from Upper Nile, and somebody from Equatorial here will tell me that I don't want you. Now, where is this country? Where are we going? Are we really one country? So, first of all, we really need to be united. We have to like ourselves, and we should not be carried away by unemployment. It should not divide us, all right? Because it is not created by that person you want to corrupt. No. I think that to be very clear to our people. Let us unite. Let us stand as people of South Sudan, which have right to work anywhere in the Republic of South Sudan. The second one, that it is because of all this conflict which is happening in our country. Otherwise, South Sudan resources are more than enough. Because now, if there is no war, and we put all the institutions in place, all this sort of corruption will not be there. We will have investors who are coming to the country. A lot of opportunity will be opened up, and everybody will get to whatever they want to get. But without also fees, and then in all our institutions that governing our daily life will not be there, and corruption will be there. Non-gunmen will be there, armed youth in the villages will be there, and all sorts of things. So we really need peace, we really need unity among ourselves. Peace is very important, and all of us, we have to support the government, president, by president, and all the presidents, by presidents. You need to support them so that we implement this peace. Because at the end of this interim period, we are going to have election. All these one will go, all right? everything will settle. But if we don't support, and then we continue to have wars here and there, and then there is no stability, then there is no stability even in the government. And I think it is really very important. The second one is that we really need to be independent. We don't depend on other person. If you have an opportunity to do your business, to cultivate, to have poultry, I think it is better you do it. Don't wait for the government to get job there. If the opportunity is there, do it. All right. What we may need from the government is that we have to get a market for us. If I have a banana and then I need a market, all right, and then we have Minister of Investment or Trade, they have to get market for our products, and then we will get whatever we really need. So, one, we need to unite. Unity is very important, paramount to us in South Sudanese. We need to support peace because peace will bring us roads, hospitals, schools, clean water, and will bring security to us if peace is achieved. And it is a responsibility of all, not one person, not in the hand of the president alone or anybody else. So we really need to support peace and be patient. Be patient. Don't allow yourself to be carried away by emotion. All right. Now you have to control your emotion so that we solve our problem amicably. So I think, Madam Angit, we are very happy, and we are working toward really reforms, and I think we are going to achieve it. We are going to achieve it because without reform, we are not going to go anywhere at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those concluding remarks. We appreciate all that you shared with us today. I believe as we close our program, we leave here having learned a lot about the work that is being done by the two ministries to help ensure that things are run efficiently and smoothly in the service of our citizens. Our audiences today were concerned about the incidents that are happening all over the country, targeting humanitarian workers. And I believe that as we close today, this is just the beginning of the dialogue in addressing these problems because not everybody would have watched the program or heard what the ministry is doing to overcome these challenges. So I would urge you to continue sensitizing our people to ensure that there is no repeat of what happened to Dr. Lewis or our sister Clara in any place in South Sudan. With this, we come to the conclusion of our show. We offer our sincere condolences to the two families and many others we might not have heard of, and pray that peace prevails so that such incidences do not repeat themselves. Thank you very much. And with this, I would close our show for today. So I would wish our audiences good night, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.